Chapter 31. Dustin Drake and Nathan Zorn could not be found. The truancy officer looked for them. He found the house Nathan listed as his address for school records. The family living there claimed to have never heard of anyone by the name of Zorn. The officer found a small, seemingly abandoned trailer on the property, but the officer said he hoped no one had to live there. Sam heard him describe to her father the smell of rot and non-functioning plumbing almost overpowering him as he knocked on the door. He didn't even attempt to go inside. When the truancy officer came up blank at Nathan's house, Mr. Flynn and Rock went and visited Dustin's mother. Her father seemed very quiet when he came home. When Sam and Lisa asked about what happened, he shook his head and said, "Very sad. It's all very sad." And they prayed for Dustin at dinner that night. Next, the police looked for the boys. Mr. Flynn pulled the police into the situation by claiming unnamed sources, specifically talking to his friends in the department that had kids at the high school. This fact inclined them to find the boys in order to question them and let any lawyers worry about things like probable cause later. Better safe than sorry, the general opinion of everyone involved. Mr. Flynn made up excuses to talk to the other goth kids who showed up at school, but most of the conversations functioned more like interviews with Angry Birds meets Wreck-It Ralph or Silent Stare versus Sympathetic Knit Brow. So now, April 19th, and the boys could not be found, like they simply never existed at all. Just as invisible, Sam assumed, as they had always been to most of the students at Mansfield High School. Tomorrow she would be 16. She'd be excited about getting her driver's license, or at least she should be, but she hadn't even talked to her parents about it. She hadn't really talked to her parents about much of anything. After their meeting with Rock, her mother looked at her so strangely for days. Finally, Sam had had enough and snapped at her. "What?" "I'm sorry, baby. I'm just so worried about you. I'm so very proud, but at the same time..." And huge tears started rolling down her face. But the sisters bounced into the kitchen about that time, and her mother turned too abruptly, to hide her eyes. There simply was just no time to talk. No time. They were out of time. There was no way Sam was going to be able to fall asleep, so she decided a glass of milk might help. As she peered in the fridge, she almost jumped out of her skin as a voice said, "What you doing, Sammy?" Her father sat in the dark at the kitchen table. "You scared me out of my skin." Sam's heart pounded 90 miles an hour. "Sorry," he chuckled. A good, hearty sound. Sam poured herself a glass of milk, popped it in the microwave for a few seconds, then plopped in the seat next to her dad. "Can't sleep either?" "Nope," Sam replied. They sat in silence for a while. That was one nice thing about her dad. You could sit in silence with him, and he was okay with that. Her mother couldn't stand it and always had to try to force something to talk about. "So do you think they're going to try anything, or do you think they've given up? And it was all my imagination?" Sam finally asked, her sarcastic humor attempting to break the silence. Maybe she was more like her mom than she thought. "I don't know, Sam. The boys certainly fit the profile to commit a violent act. I've learned way too much about Nathan Zorn these last few days. I can't imagine how someone could have a childhood like he's had and not be insane. Childhood. What childhood?" And her father became very quiet again, lost somewhere in his thoughts. A few minutes later, and he began again. "Rock and I have been talking a lot about how we didn't know how some of these kids suffer. The poverty that they live in, it's unreal. I deal with these discipline problems every day. I talk to a parent and someone the students call a parent, but I haven't seen up close and personal the conditions that some of these kids have to endure when they get home. I've always felt that they are my problem at school and their parents' problem when they get home, but things are different. So much has changed. Times just aren't like they used to be, Sam. Maybe they've never been, and my eyes have just been opened a little. He patted her on the hand, and his eyes looked very tired. You need to get some sleep. Don't worry. The police are watching the school tonight. I'll be gone when you get up in the morning, so happy birthday, sweetie. He got up from his seat, kissed her on the top of the head, and started to leave the kitchen. Can we pray for Dustin, Dad? Of course, Sam. And for my birthday girl. Oh, and Pops is picking you up for school. After her father left, Sam began to see creepy shadows all over the kitchen walls, so she speedily crawled back under the safety of her covers. Ellen, are you here? Sam called out to the darkness. Well, if you're here, I could really use one of those guardian angel force fields of protection Rock talked about. God, could you hide me from evil? And she turned on her nightlight. Sam got out her Bible and started reading the Psalms again. Maybe that would help her fall asleep. Sam didn't notice Ellen lie down beside her, gently stroking her hair. Her wings covered Sam and hid her from the darkness. Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday, dear Samantha! Happy birthday to you! Lily and Mary Beth swung the early morning greeting like a sledgehammer. Samantha! Birthday! JT propelled himself out of Lisa's arms and crawled up to her face and deposited very sticky kisses. Why do you have a nightlight? One of the girls questioned. Samantha still needs a nightlight, the other girl laughed. Both girls laughed as they retreated from her bedroom, very satisfied with how they had started her day. Lisa Flynn deftly turned off the bedside lamp, kissed her birthday girl on the forehead, and said, Pancakes are ready. Flynn family tradition dictated pancakes shaped like your birthday number. Pancakes morphed into a 1 and a 6, sat on Sam's spot at the table when she arrived. Sam made a mental note that she needed to watch how her mother did it someday. It was a good tradition. About the time Sam sat down, Pops came through the kitchen door. Pops! The girls cried in unison as they ran to the door to get their hugs. Ops! JT followed, gripping the old man's pant leg. Good morning, sunshine, Leon Flynn said. How's the birthday girl this morning? And another kiss deposited upon Sam. The simple pleasure of the morning almost made Sam forget that it could be a horrible day. But as she washed her face and attempted to tame her hair, the vision of dead friends, people she knew, slapped her in the face. For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. Sam said it aloud, then a little louder. She decided several days ago that if she were going to start learning more about the Bible, that verse was a very good place to start. Start right there. As Sam and Pops approached the high school, Sam's fear began to creep out of her stomach and upper throat. The pancake 16 churned and didn't taste very good bubbling back up. The thought of her grandfather trying to negotiate a car drop-off line, too much, simply too much. Pops, do you mind dropping me off behind school? Sam asked. When she saw the confused look on his face and the beginning of his motions to turn right toward the front of the building, she hastily added, I have PE first hour, so it's closer for me to walk to the gym from back here. And she gestured toward the back of the school. Sam noticed getting better at lying must come with age. The churning in her belly eased up a bit, even though her grandfather violently whipped his truck out of his right turn to continue straight toward the back of the campus. As he approached the school, Sam noticed the huge concrete and brick structure that housed the MHS air conditioner. She remembered Dustin sitting with his back to the fan, the blades threatening to capture his hair and permanently remove his scalp. "Stop here," Sam said a little too forcefully. Leon Flynn slammed on his brakes, and Sam's body catapulted against the seatbelt. "Here?" her grandfather questioned. "Yes, sir. Love ya. Thanks," Sam speedily said and hopped out of the car before he could object. "Happy birthday," he called and waved. Sam turned and blew him a kiss. As Sam approached the air conditioning unit, her heart pounded harder than a dog's at the vet. She felt just as helpless, too. She shook her head. She was just being silly. What chance did she have of Dustin being there? Again, she laughed out loud to herself and chanted her mantra. For God has not given us a spirit of fear or timidity, but of power, love, a sound mind. 2 Timothy. But Sam didn't get a chance to finish. As she stepped onto the concrete of the air conditioning structure, a hand shot out and grabbed her and slammed her hard into the brick wall. Sam stood face to face with Nathan Zorn, his arm pressed hard against her throat. A gun rested against her head.